Insider Secrets, Unveiling Pompeii'S brutal BR0THEL at midnight. What they never told you, the moon hung high over the crumbling ruins of Pompeii, casting an eerie glow that seemed to whisper secrets of a past drenched in tales of lust and despair. Shadows danced through the once bustling streets, where laughter had turned into silence long ago. And at the center of this ancient city, a place lay hidden, one that housed stories too wild to tell in daylight, secrets too horrible to comprehend. This was no ordinary brothel, it was a den of temptation, filled with the echoes of desperate souls seeking pleasure, only to find themselves trapped in the grips of a brutal fate. As the clock struck midnight, the air thickened. Unsettling sounds, like muffled cries, slipped through cracks in the stones, hinting at unspeakable horrors within. The heavy scent of incense mixed with the stench of sweat and fear as patrons, both curious and reckless, dared to enter. They were met with stunning frescoes of androgynous figures, arched in grotesque ecstasy, their expressions frozen in eternal rapture or perhaps agony. Lurid tales of emotional and physical suffering lay embedded in the walls, a mural of mixed fates that kept onlookers frozen in disbelief. But there was one tale, the one about a secret society formed in the shadows of this temple of vice, that sent chills down the spines of those who dared to hear it. Whispers spoke of masked figures who patronized the establishment under the cover of darkness, leaving behind not just gold but fragments of their very souls. The locals believed that once you entered, there was no escaping the binding curse that followed those who indulged in the forbidden pleasures within. With each passing moment, tension grew. The past loomed ominously, ready to entwine with the present. What if the stories were true? What if the ghosts of those lost in the throes of ecstasy were still wandering these very streets, looking for a way back? A sudden breeze stirred up the dust, and the crowd shivered, their breaths hitching as they exchanged fearful glances. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The night wore on, filled with a restless energy that seemed to pulse through the very stones. Would anyone discover the final secret? Who among them would dare venture further inside, crossing the threshold into the unknown? Just then, a scream shattered the tense atmosphere, slicing through the thick air like a knife. Eyes widened. Hearts raced. The gathering crowd held its breath, uncertain of who, or what, would emerge from the shadows. What lay behind those closed doors of desire? Would it lead to untold pleasures or unbearable truths? The dance of fate had only just begun. The scream echoed endlessly, reverberating through the narrow streets of Pompeii and freezing the crowd in terror. Faces pallid, glances darted back towards the entrance of the brothel, where the heavy wooden door swung open slowly, as if beckoning a dreadful unveiling. A figure stepped into the moonlight, shrouded in a long, tattered cloak, their face obscured by a mask that mirrored the grotesque expressions painted on the walls behind them. A shiver ran down the spine of every onlooker. Was this a patron or a manifestation of some otherworldly spirit? Leave, now, the figure rasped, voice like gravel scraping against stone. They raised a trembling hand, the fingers skeletal, as if each bone were a reminder of those who had passed this way before. What happened? A voice rang out from the crowd, almost a whisper. The masked figure hesitated, then took a step forward. The society has awakened. The urgency in their tone gripped the crowd, a palpable fear that twisted in the air. They are angry. Souls are restless. An old man from the back muttered to those around him, I've heard the legends, the sacrifices they demanded. Wisps of apprehension and intrigue fanned through the group as they absorbed his words. The tales of exquisite torment, of the pleasures that ensnared the unwary. What can we do? Another voice piped up, the tremor unmistakable. How do we escape the curse? Once inside, the door seals, the figure said, voice softening, but still tainted with dread. The gathering fell silent, and the truth of the words hung ominously like fog rolling in through a distant sea. A metaphorical seal that gripped not just the body but bound the soul, tightening its hold on those who ventured into the depths of desire. Behind the figure, shadows writhed, twisting and bending as if the very fabric of reality was altering. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Then, as if on cue, the air thickened suddenly with a fragrance sweet, intoxicating, and utterly foreign. It was as if the walls of the brothel exhaled an invisible phantom that drifted toward them, coaxing their senses. "What are you?" a brave soul shouted, stepping forward. "What do you want?" "The truth," the figure replied, voice echoing, resonating with a depth of sorrow. But truths are seldom kind in this place. Fear gripped the hearts of the crowd as uneasy murmurs filled the air. Could they truly turn back? The weight of curiosity and foreboding hung heavy over them. Underneath the allure of the brothel lay a haunting legacy, ready to claim those who dared to taste forbidden fruit. The shadows pulsed, teasing with forgotten pleasures and ancient horrors. Suddenly, another scream pierced the night, this time louder, more desperate. It was followed by a chorus of wails, emanating from within the brothel itself. The moans seemed to wrap around every onlooker, tugging at their resolve, as thoughts of escaping mingled with the intoxicating lure of the unknown. "Run!" someone shouted, breaking the spell, and chaos erupted. People burst in all directions, fleeing from the door, but the figure stood still, an unwavering statue among the storm that eye and the commotion. One brave young woman slipped away from the crowd, her heart pounding with reckless determination. She turned back, glancing at the figure in the cloak. "I need to know the truth," she declared, a fire igniting within her. Would she discover the dark heart of the brothel, or would the truth consume her, leaving nothing but another lingering whisper in the dark? The door slammed shut behind her, sealing her fate. For the cursed night, the real horror was only just beginning. Inside, the air was electric, thick with secrets long buried and desires unleashed. The young woman's heart raced as she stepped into the dimly lit hall. Walls adorned with faded murals beckoned her deeper, their intricate designs whispering tales of ecstasy and agony. Every sound echoed ominously, the faint rustle of fabric, low murmurs too intimate to decipher, and an undercurrent of laughter that melded into something darker. It felt like stepping into a dream or a nightmare. The fragrance that had haunted the crowd crept in with her. It was overpowering, sweet yet acrid, tugging at her senses as if tempting her to succumb to its spell. Inhaling sharply, she steeled herself, pushing through the curtain that hung like a veil to another room. It opened into a larger chamber where several figures lounged on silken cushions, their eyes glinting with vigilance. Something about their smiles warned her these were not mere patrons, but eager participants in a game she was too naive to understand. "Welcome," a sultry voice purred from the far corner. A woman draped in lavish fabrics rose, her beauty otherworldly, yet something twisted lay beneath her surface. "What brings you to our sanctuary? Seeking pleasure? Or perhaps, a revelation?" The young woman swallowed hard, gathering her courage. "I want to know the truth about the society. I will not be buried in the darkness." The other patrons stilled, a silent breath passing between them. The woman's laughter rang out, a sound like chimes tangled in the wind. "The truth? It's not what you think, little dove. Here, desires are devoured, and innocence is a prize beyond reach." Before she could respond, murmurs erupted from the shadows. "You've heard the tales, haven't you?" a man questioned, his tone slick with mockery. "The blood, the offerings, the unfurling of lost souls." She stepped back, the room swirling with panic and curiosity. The captured souls of those no longer present flitted across her mind like fireflies in the night. "Get away from me," she managed, a lump in her throat suffocating her voice. "We simply seek to awaken what lies dormant within," the beautiful woman said, advancing toward her. "To make you part of something more, something powerful." Suddenly, the ground trembled, a low rumble that sent ripples of fear through the air. The wall behind the woman shook. Dust rained down, and shadows flickered, rallying against them. Was it the legacy of the brothel, stirring and restless? We have waited far too long, a chorus of voices warned, rising with a haunting melody. You walked through the door. Now, there is no turning back. The young woman felt the weight of the room press against her. The faces around her shifted from beauty to grotesque, reflecting her own dread. Their intentions were murky, shadows that danced with malice, leaving her breathless. It wasn't just a search for truth. It was a descent into madness, where every desire hinted at buried darkness, waiting to unleash itself. In that moment, she realized, the masked figure had warned her. This society craved more than souls, it thirsted for control, feeding off fear and longing. The truth was not a mere story, it was a labyrinth of horrors entwined with her own destiny. As jarring screams erupted from a door she hadn't realized had opened, she turned to flee. But the doorway twisted in on itself, blurring into the walls around her, trapping her within this nightmarish realm. And just as hope flickered within her desperate heart, the faltering shadows beckoned, whispering promises of delights that once seemed unimaginable. Would she succumb to their temptation or find the strength to break free? The clock was ticking, and the darkness was hungry. The room began to pulse, a heartbeat of the darkness surrounding her. Each thud echoed in her chest, matching the frantic rhythm of her thoughts. She had stepped into a den of secrets, and now, it felt as if those very secrets were wrapping around her, pulling her deeper into their embrace. Come, join us, the beautiful woman urged, her voice siren-like, dangerously inviting. The shadows swirled, thick and tangible, and the faces of the patrons twisted into expressions of hunger. Fear gripped her throat, and she tasted the bile at the back of her mouth. Those glinting eyes reflected a hunger that went beyond the physical, it reached for her very essence. No! She gasped, her voice barely reaching beyond the flickering candlelight. She turned, seeking an escape, but every path morphed into another layer of the macabre tapestry unfolding before her. The walls closed in, drumming the sensation of claustrophobia deep into her bones. Was this what they meant by awakening? A suffocation disguised as pleasure? Why resist? A low voice purred from the shadows. You're already here. You belong to us now. Every nerve in her body screamed to run, yet part of her, a vulnerable, trembling part, was intrigued. The promises whispered around her were intoxicating in their allure. Knowledge of hidden pleasures, truths long obscured by the unyielding veil of society. How sweet the temptation, how bitter the price. The patrons shifted, and the woman's face became a mask of unsettling seduction. You seek the truth. Then embrace your desires. Let them guide you. Like a moth drawn to a flame, she hesitated. What lay within those desires, liberation or oblivion? Shadows writhed around her, echoing her internal struggle. The ground trembled again, more violently this time. The very fabric of the room seemed to warp, and she heard it, the sound of whispered secrets, old and angry. We're not alone in seeking the truth, she stammered, gathering the remnants of her courage. There are others, those who have survived. Laughter erupted, wild and unsettling. Survived? A man's voice mocked, cutting through her determination like a knife. In our world, survival is just another form of bondage. She forced her gaze to meet his, and in that moment, she saw it. A glimmer of desperation beneath his bravado. You're trapped like us, she declared, her voice trembling but resolute. You don't need to be here. But we want to be. His eyes burned with a truth that rattled her to the core. Here, we are alive in ways we never were before. But you can escape. The urgency in his voice sparked something deep within her. The weight of her fate was heavy, yet a flicker of hope began to crack the suffocating darkness. If I can escape, I can help you. But this isn't freedom. This is a cage masked in glamour. Leave us be. You think you can change us? The woman hissed, stepping forward, fury radiating from her like heat from a flame. We are the remnants of this world. You will not leave until the truth is unveiled through blood's bond. Panic filled the chamber. She was seconds from losing herself to the chaos around her. Without thinking, she dashed toward the doorway, desperately clawing at the warped edges as they shimmered, resisting her escape. But the shadows swirled around her, whispering, insisting she surrender. The air thickened, constricting her throat as reality warped. Her breath came in shallow gasps, her heart racing wildly, and the truth gelled in the back of her mind. She was more than just a visitor. She was part of this society's twisted essence. As she struggled, a figure stepped forward from the shadows, cloaked in darkness. You can't escape your destiny, yet. The choice lays heavy on your heart, it rasped, its voice cutting through the fog of fear. In that moment, she understood there was more at stake than her mere survival. There were others still lost in this web, and if she was ever going to unravel the truth, she had to surrender to something far more profound than just desire. Would she risk everything to confront the horrors around her, or let the shadows consume her slowly? The clock struck midnight and time was running out. The shadows recoiled, then surged toward her, a tempest of inky tendrils stretching as if they aimed to ensnare her very soul. Each flicker of candlelight sent harsh shadows dancing along the walls, twisting into grotesque shapes that threatened to consume her. Her heart pounded a swift cadence as she fought against the suffocating grip of the room. "Let go!" she cried, voice strained and desperate. The air crackled with an electric charge, infusing the moment with tension so thick it felt like a suffocating fog. The murmurs of the patrons ricocheted off the walls, each syllable a dagger aimed at her resolve. "Join us willingly, or be taken by force," the woman hissed, her once beautiful face now a mask of fury. "There's no escape from what you are." "What am I?" The question danced in her mind, taunting and persistent. She was teetering on the precipice of madness as she clawed at the threshold of this dreadful gathering, her fingers scraping against something warm and yielding. Was it the wood of the door or the slickness of trapped souls? With a final surge of desperate energy, she pushed against the warped edges of the room, and stumbled back as the figure in the shadows moved closer. This cloaked entity radiated power, a heartbeat in the dark that echoed her own. "Do not resist," it growled. "You're more intertwined with this realm than you could imagine." Images washed over her, bright flashes of a world unfurling, echoes of laughter mingled with haunting cries, the rhythmic pulse of something ancient and yet, somehow alive. This was not merely a den of secrets, it was a cradle of lost desires, a breeding ground for darkness to flourish. "Listen." The urgency edged her voice. "If I can help you find freedom, you can freedom." The laughter that erupted was chilling, a cacophony that echoed through her very being. "What you see as chains, others see as liberation." Through the noise, she caught the man's desperate gaze. "You have to trust that there's light beyond this tomb," he urged. But the shadows strained at her legs, tendrils coiling around her like a serpent ready to constrict. She could feel the pull, a seductive invitation to surrender to the chaos around her. As her resolve faltered, another stranger stepped into the light from the shadows, a woman with eyes like storm clouds, filled with both anger and despair. "You have to stop this," she shouted, her voice a timely beacon cutting through the oppressive atmosphere. "Don't let them claim you. There's an escape." "Escape?" The woman's voice dripped with disdain. "You think you can defy the allure? This is a sanctuary for souls like ours, forgotten by the world." But hope flickered within the darkness, offering a glimmer of resistance. "You don't have to remain trapped. We can fight back," she shouted, the words tearing from her throat as she felt courage build deep within her. "Fighting back requires sacrifice," the woman with stormy eyes countered, her breath coming in rapid bursts. "It requires trust, which we have lost." The room shifted again, the heartbeat resonating louder, drowning out all reason. As she steadied her breath, the shadows writhed, sensing her determination. "Then let us find that trust," she said, heart racing, feeling the weight of her choice. Around her, the faces of the patrons shifted, expressions of hunger darkening to uncertainty. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could kindle a spark, a flicker of rebellion igniting among relinquished souls. but, as she reached toward the man and the stormy-eyed woman, the cloaked figure stepped forward, shrouded in darker shadows. "You will face the consequences of your choices," it intoned. "And blood will flow before this night is over." With those words hanging in the air, the ground beneath her trembled ominously. The clock struck again, louder now, each echo a harbinger of chaos to come. She had stoked the fires of change, but at what cost? In the heart of the darkness, she felt both the thrill of possibility and the dread of impending strife. The path ahead was fraught with danger. Would she dare traverse it, or would the shadows claim her forever? The cacophony of voices grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Time was running out, and soon she would have to make a choice that would irrevocably alter her fate. What awaited her on the other side of the threshold? The shadows twisted and thrashed around her, a cacophony of whispers blending into a singular, ominous chant. Through the chaos, her heart pounded relentlessly, thundering like a war drum. Everyone around her seemed caught in a sort of trance, their eyes reflecting a blend of longing and dread. She was the anomaly, the bright spark in a sea of darkness. The cloaked figure loomed closer, its voice a low growl that reverberated in her bones. "Many have tried to resist. Few have survived to tell their tale." Survived? She scoffed, fear fueling her fire. "What do you know of survival? You hide in shadows while we suffer under your thumb." "Ah, but understanding is a different beast," it hissed, a cruel smile playing at the corners of its mouth. "Embrace your fate. Accept the darkness, and you may find power beyond your wildest dreams." Power? The word ignited a flame within her. "Is that what all this is about? You've spun a web of despair and called it strength?" The storm-eyed woman stepped closer, nodding sharply. "Don't listen to its lies. We can break this spell together. We must." The figure sneered, the shadows swirling around it becoming more pronounced. "You think you're righteous? Look around. Each soul in this room has tasted both freedom and captivity. This is your true family now. Don't deny your nature." The realization hit her like a slap. These people, these wretched souls, they were more than prisoners. They were willing participants in an unholy covenant. The light of reason flickered as darkness whispered ill temptations to her, an intoxicating blend of despair and desire that felt like home. "Stop this madness," she demanded, clenching her fists. The energy was palpable, pulsing through the room like a living being. "We can break free if we just believe." "Believe?" The cloaked figure scoffed, stepping forward with an unsettling grace. "What have you to believe in, child? Except the blind hope you cling to?" The color drained from her face as a realization took form in the back of her mind. The price of defiance could be steep. Stories of sacrifice echoed around her, tales of souls drained, their essence cast into obscurity. Would she be adding her name to that list? Behind her, the man with the desperate eyes pushed through the mass of bodies. "We have strength together. Rebel against this darkness." The resolve she felt flickered, wavered. Could a rebellion built on such a shattered foundation truly succeed? Her pulse quickened again, racing against the clock. The cloaked figure raised an arm, shadows swirling violently around it. "Enough of your pleas. You will choose surrender to what you are, or sacrifice yourself to the void. That is your path." With a deep breath, she steeled herself and turned to the storm-eyed woman. "We can't let it take us. We must fight." But as she spoke, the shadows swelled, their whispers turning into screams that clawed at her mind. Everything around her began to spin, the room distorting like a funhouse mirror. The faces of the patrons morphed in an array of grotesque expressions, their hunger sharpening into something primal. "Choose, or be consumed." The figure thundered, the air around them crackling with energy. She felt a chill run down her spine. Was it too late? Had the moment for choices, for rebellion, slipped through her fingers like grains of sand? With fear gripping her heart, she knew she had to act. But she could only see darkness ahead, looming like a storm cloud ready to break. What if there was no way out? What if they were trapped in a cycle of despair with no hope of breaking free? Just as the clock struck once more, the shadows screamed around her, drowning any thought of escape. In that instant, clarity struck hard. She had a choice: fight or surrender. But outside glimmered something faint, something that promised salvation. What would she risk to chase the flicker of hope? The air crackled with tension, heavy with the weight of her choice. Every face around her seemed to flicker, frightened, desperate, almost hungry for what the cloaked figure promised. They swayed slightly, caught in the throes of the shadows, their existence a twisted dance that felt both familiar and horrific. "Fight!" she cried out again, voice straining against the suffocating gloom. But as the words left her lips, doubt twisted in her gut, tightening like a noose. Did they even want to be saved? The cloaked figure grinned wider, taking in her turmoil. "You see. Even now, your allies waver. How can you stand against fate when they are already on their knees?" Discomfort rippled through her. A couple of patrons exchanged glances, and she caught a flicker of something. Was it fear? Or was it the hope she had dared to ignite? She couldn't be sure. Closer, the shadows rushed, and the figure leaned in, its breath foul and stale. "Leave them behind. Embrace this power. You could be a queen in my domain." Her heart raced. The offer was venomous, yet alluring. There were whispers lurking just beneath her senses, offering sweet promises of strength and acceptance, everything she had ever craved. An image flashed in her mind, herself, adorned in shadows, wielding power like a weapon. The thought thrilled her even as it chilled her blood. "No," she choked out, shaking her head. "This isn't power. It's a poison that seeps into your soul." "Ah, but how do you know your soul is worth saving?" it taunted, eyes burning like molten fire. "What makes you so sure of your purity?" The thoughts crashed against her. Self-doubt, trepidation, ugly memories resurfaced, times when she had slipped into darkness willingly, when she had sacrificed herself for fleeting moments of stolen happiness. Did she even belong in the light anymore? Behind her, the storm-eyed woman stepped forward defiantly, shaking her head. "Don't let it twist your mind. We are stronger together. If we fall as one." "Yes." she gasped, emboldened by the woman's conviction. Even as her insides twisted with fear, a fire ignited in her chest. "We will stand, not just for ourselves but for everyone. We deserve more." As if provoked by her words, the shadows quaked and churned angrily, howling like a tempest. The cloaked figure's expression shifted, more furious now, baring teeth that were sharp and jagged. "You dare resist? The void hungers for defiance. Let it hunger," she hissed back, resolved against the creeping dread that clung to her like a shroud. "We won't fade away." The connection she felt with the storm-eyed woman strengthened, fortified by glimmers of shared purpose reigniting within her. And then, the man with the desperate eyes reached out, grasping her hand firmly. "Together!" he shouted, voice cutting through the chaos, igniting something within the crowd. The patrons began to murmur, a ripple of rebellion fueled by the three of them. "For freedom!" someone shouted, the embers of hope sparking into flame. The mass of bodies stirred, some marching forward, others hesitating, but the energy was undeniable. "Fools! You won't escape this reckoning." The cloaked figure roared, shadows swirling violently around it like a living armor. But the tide had started to turn. A palpable force surged as they stepped towards the figure. Hope was fragile yet fierce, like an arrow shot into the night sky, daring the stars to respond. Would they conquer the darkness or succumb to the shadows? The pulse of the crowd quickened, but the question clung thick in the air. What awaited them in the thickening dark? Would their courage be enough to stand against an ancient evil that thrived on fear? As they closed the distance, shadows lunged at them, hungry and chaotic. She braced herself, feeling the warmth of the connection with her allies. Would they shatter the chains together, or would the light extinguish before the dawn? The shadows lashed out like serpents, screeching as they sought to ensnare them. She could sense the malevolence swirling, a living entity eager to claim their resolve. But her heart pounded, fueled by the unity she felt with her allies. They moved as one, a single body aiming straight for a dark heart. "Don't look back," the storm-eyed woman shouted, her voice cutting through the ominous whispers like a sword. With every step, their voices grew louder, slowly drowning out the chilling taunts of the cloaked figure. "Together," they cried, echoing the mantra that now bound them tighter than chains. It was a mantra laced with equal parts fear and determination. Each step forward felt like a battle, the ground trembling beneath them, urging retreat. But they held tight. Their hands intertwined, each clasp a lifeline drawing strength from one another. The man's grip felt firm, a reassuring anchor in a torrent of uncertainty. Ahead, the cloaked figure recoiled momentarily, shadows recoiling like smoke before a flame. "You think this unity will save you?" It spat, fury distorting its features. "You are merely feeding the darkness." "Let it feed," she shot back, feeling the power of the crowd align with hers. "Together we will break the chains of fear." In a sudden surge, the crowd exploded into a roar, voices melding into a symphony of resistance that countered the encroaching darkness. She could see expressions shifting around, eyes widening with newfound conviction. Hope spread like fire. Then, it struck. A wave of shadow lashed out violently, breaking the ranks, sending a shockwave through the crowd. She stumbled, lost her footing, but the man yanked her back, their grip unyielding. "Stand firm," he yelled as the shadows howled, the cacophony echoing with haunting laughter. But even in the chaos, recognition dawned. A figure in the darkness, an old friend, stood at the back, full of fierce determination. It wasn't just desperation that had brought them together, but a shared history of battles fought and won, scars worn like badges of honor. She pulled free, darting toward her friend, heart soaring. "We can do this. We've fought before." In mere moments, they formed a solid front once again, arms entwined, voices rising higher. The shadows recoiled, momentarily staggering back, but then, a deafening roar erupted. The cloaked figure unleashed a storm of darkness, tendrils reaching out like claws, seeking to rend the bonds they had formed. "You are fools to think you can challenge me. I'll consume your defiance and turn it against you." The crowd staggered, fear once more creeping into their hearts. Dread seeped into the air like poison, suffocating their resolve. "Remember who we are," the storm-eyed woman called out, eyes firebright. "Together, we are unstoppable." A flicker of concern crossed faces as doubt again emerged, but she reached for the flame igniting within her. "We are more than shadows. We're the light fighting back." At that moment, something shifted. A pulse of energy surged through them, a collective heartbeat hammering with shared awareness. And with a shared breath, they surged forward, bodies moving as one toward the dark heart pulsating before them. The promise of fight echoed through their bones. With every fiber of their beings, they pushed against the darkness with a force as fierce as their fears. As they collided with the dark, a blinding burst of light erupted. The red-hot brilliance illuminated faces filled with hope and terror, breaking the dark shroud that had threatened to capture them, but in the center of chaos, a chilling laugh echoed. "Fools! You think you've won?" The light flickered, a mere flash against the growing storm. The shadows coiled tighter, desperate and hungry. What dark consequence awaited them now that they had dared to defy the void? Would the light they had fought so fiercely for snuff out against the consuming darkness? The shadows shivered as the blinding light pulsed across the battlefield. For a moment it illuminated every face, fear painted over steely resolve. But the light began to dim, flickering as the darkness flexed around them, hungry and chaos-driven. Whispers clawed at her ears, fiendish voices laced with clawing rage. "Are you ready to surrender?" The cloaked figure taunted, its voice silky and menacing. "You think you can rewrite the narrative? You're nothing but moths drawn to the flame." Her heart raced, a frantic drumbeat in her chest, overwhelmed by the looming malevolence. She could see her friends' faces morphing from hope to uncertainty, shadows playing tricks on their minds. Stay together. She managed to cry out through the tumult, intensity surging in her veins. We are stronger than their fear. But as the darkness contorted, the ground beneath their feet erupted into turmoil, massive fissures opening like maws ready to swallow them whole. Panic rippled through the collective. She could see her old friend teetering on the edge, eyes wide with terror. Help! They shouted, voice cracking as they struggled not to be pulled into the gaping void below. Desperation gripped her, but from the corner of her eye, she noticed others falling back, retreating into the grasp of the shadows. Don't you see? She heard one call, voice breaking, it's too much. We can't fight this. No. The storm-eyed woman roared, her voice a whip cutting through the despair. This is the moment we must dig deeper. Stick together. Fueled by anger and conviction, she surged toward her friend, arms outstretched. But the cloaked figure congealed in front of her. It twisted, shadows swirling around it, attempting to engulf the connecting forces they had woven together. Your friend will perish without the light, it snarled, darkness oozing from its seams. And you will watch. Choose, or you will lose everything. The weight of its words crushed down on her chest. Her breath hitched, and the world pulsed with shadows, the tendrils unraveling, whispering doubts infecting her thoughts. Was there really a choice? She fought against the rising tide of fear. We march forward. We don't back down. She shouted, each syllable pushing past the anguish coiling in her gut. If her words summoned tangible courage, the crowd gathered, inching back toward her, reluctant but unwilling to slip into despair. Faces steadied, eyes lit with tentative resolve. Connection thrummed between them, an electric charge building against the shadows pressing in, but the cloaked figure rallied, summoning a tempest of chaos. Then let chaos take you. It shrieked, and a whirlwind of shadows surged forward, tendrils clawing, screaming toward them. Time slowed, dread slicing through her heart. In that moment of terror, she spotted something shimmering deep within the frantic storm, a glimmer of light, sharp and piercing, something they could hold on to. Together. She shouted again, a primal instinct driving her. Let that light guide us. And they surged forward once more, arms linked tight, voices swelling with bravery. But as they collided with the shadows, a bone-chilling howl erupted, and she felt a jolt race through her. The light they fought for flickered once more, threatening to extinguish. A spiraling cyclone of chaos surrounded them, and in that breathless instant, dread gripped her tightly. What would emerge from the darkness? Would they find their freedom, or would it shatter them into fragments, lost forever in the void? The shadows expanded, and she knew a storm was brewing, one that could unleash horrors they had yet to comprehend. The shadows roiled around them, thundering and echoing, their voices swelling into a cacophony of fear and rage. But amidst the turmoil, a flicker of light grew stronger, a beacon against the festering darkness. She felt the hands of her friends tighten around hers, anchoring her, fueling her determination. Keep moving. She cried, her voice piercing through the dreaded whispers that threatened to pull them apart. They pressed forward, locking arms, hearts pounding as one in defiance of the encroaching shadows. Their collective energy ignited the space, flickering like a flame in the wind, daring it to snuff them out. The cloaked figure snarled, shadows swirling violently, the darkness writhing with malevolence. You think unity will save you? Each step will be your last. It spat, fury twisting its features into something almost unrecognizable. No. The storm-eyed woman shouted back, stepping forward with fierce conviction. We are more than mere shadows. Our strength lies in who we are together. As murmurs of solidarity rippled through the crowd, she joined in, shouting, we have faced despair before. We are not bound by fear. The words surged from her like a shockwave, rippling through the ranks. More voices joined, electrifying the air with renewed vigor. The tide began to shift, the shadows recoiled, momentarily startled. The cloaked figure's expression morphed into something frantic. Enough. You think the light can shield you? It screeched, launching itself toward them with a flurry of dark tendrils, each one writhing like a snake seeking to constrict their hope, but they stood firm, a bulwark against the despair. The light glimmered brighter, illuminating each face bound by shared resolve. She felt the warmth of camaraderie ripple through her chest, pushing back against the encroaching dread. "We are the light fighting against you," she shouted, and with her words, a flash of luminescence erupted from their joined hands. It swarmed outward, radiant and fierce, radiating a force so powerful it sent the shadows recoiling as if burnt by the intense flame. The cloaked figure howled, the noise grating through her bones, filled with fury and despair. "You cannot break the ties that bind you. You are mine." "No!" she roared, feeling the fire within her flare one last time. "We choose our fate." And with that, she thrust her hands forward, leading the charge into the thrumming heart of the darkness. A fragment of energy erupted as they collided with the figure, a shockwave of brilliance pulsing like a heartbeat. The shadows writhed in panic, thrashing against their light as it shattered away layer after layer of darkness, unraveling the very fabric of their fears. "Together!" the storm-eyed woman cried, her voice rising above the chaos as the ground trembled beneath their feet, an earthquake of emotions boiling over, and then it happened. A surge of energy erupted from their clasped hands, a purifying force that enveloped them completely. The cloaked figure shrieked, the sound piercing the air, splintering like glass. Shadows dissipated into the air, evaporating as if they had never existed. In a brilliant burst of light, they surged forward, enveloped in an ethereal glow spilling out the doors of the brothel like water rushing through a breached dam. As they emerged into the moonlight-drenched streets of Pompeii, a deep silence enveloped them. The air felt lighter, free from the weight of despair. She gasped, looking around, her faces glowing, eyes alight with hope, fear dissolving into the expanse of the night. They were free. For a heart-stopping moment, the echoes of the past whispered in her ear. The horrors they had faced veiled beneath layers of shadows. But there was also a shared recognition, a bond formed from their struggle. They had fought together, and together they had triumphed. Turning back, she looked at the crumbling facade of the brothel one last time. The darkness still lingered there, but she felt empowered not by fear or desire but by the clarity of their unity, a promise that numbers carried strength. She turned to her friends, their faces reflecting a glow of victory, even mingled with fatigue. They would each carry scars, but they would heal together. Here, before the ruins of temptation and despair, stood a testament to their ability to rise, to defy. "We did it," she whispered, tears of relief and joy welling in her eyes. "Together," the storm-eyed woman replied, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. And together, they walked out into the night, a night, once tilted with despair, now shining with infinite possibilities. They were not just survivors, they were a force. As they stepped away from the ruins, a warmth spread through each heart, a flicker of hope igniting within their very souls, forever remembered as that shimmering burst in the dark depths of Pompeii. This was their farewell to the past. More importantly, it was a promise for the dawn to come. If you enjoyed this epic conclusion, then you need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling ending. What did you think? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who you know need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.